You are standing around a fire. It is thousands of years ago. The sun just went down. There is no phone. There is no Netflix. There is just you, the flames, and the thick, choking smoke curling directly into your face. And somewhere at some point, one of your ancestors looked at that smoke and thought, wait, what if I did that on purpose? This is the story of how humans discovered smoking. Not cigarettes, not cigars, not the guy outside the office you always end up talking to for too long. We are talking about the very first time a human being intentionally inhaled something burning, and why that might be one of the oldest habits our kind has ever had. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. Smoking does not start with tobacco. It does not start with colonial trade routes or agriculture. It starts with fire and what happens when certain plants burn. When organic matter combusts, it does not just produce carbon dioxide and water vapor. It releases a cocktail of compounds depending on what is burning. Some plants release psychoactive chemicals, alkaloids, terpenes, compounds that interact with the human nervous system in ways that are, let us say, noticeable. Your brain has receptors that respond to cannabinoids. It has receptors that respond to nicotine. These are built-in systems, part of the body's own regulatory architecture, governing mood, memory, pain, and appetite. When a human first inhaled smoke from a burning cannabis plant or a wild tobacco leaf, their brain was not confused. It had the hardware to receive the signal. The question is not whether ancient humans noticed. The question is how long it took them to start doing it on purpose. The oldest direct evidence of intentional cannabis use comes from a burial site in the Pamir Mountains of Central Asia, dating to around 500 BC. Excavators found wooden braziers containing superheated stones alongside residue from cannabis plants with unusually high THC content. This was not wild hemp used for rope. This was selected for potency, and it was placed directly in a ritual burial context. But does the absence of older evidence mean it did not happen earlier? Organic material, seeds, leaves, plant fiber almost never survives thousands of years in the ground. Stone tools survive because stone is indestructible. A wooden pipe filled with dried herbs is gone in a few centuries. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. And then there is Herodotus. The ancient Greek historian described the Scythians performing what he called a vapor bath. They set up enclosed tents, heated stones until they glowed, threw hemp seeds onto those stones, and sat inside inhaling the smoke. As Herodotus wrote, howling with pleasure. For centuries, historians assumed he was exaggerating. Then archaeologists excavating Scythian burial mounds found bronze braziers, heated stones, and hemp residue. Exactly what he described. He was, if anything, underselling it. But here is a part of this story that rarely gets enough attention. Before smoke was ever ritual or recreational, it was practical. Smoke was one of the earliest tools humans had for solving problems that had nothing to do with altered consciousness. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Ethnobiology documented over 200 traditional cultures worldwide that use smoke for insect repulsion. Burning specific plants drives away mosquitoes, flies, and parasites with remarkable effectiveness. In tropical environments where insect-borne disease was one of the leading causes of death, a smoky fire was not a nuisance, it was medicine. Smoke was also the first preservation technology for protein. Smoking meat and fish extends shelf life from days to months. It kills bacteria on the surface, deposits antimicrobial compounds into the flesh, and draws out moisture. In a world without refrigeration or salt trade, smoking meat was the difference between eating and starving during lean seasons. Ancient humans who mastered smoke did not just discover a habit. They discovered a survival tool that happened, as a side effect, to sometimes make them feel very interesting things. Now let us talk about tobacco, because it is the one most people associate with smoking. Tobacco is native to the Americas. When European explorers arrived in the Caribbean in 1492, Columbus himself wrote about seeing people walking around with small glowing sticks, inhaling smoke from burning dried leaves. His crew was baffled. His crew also, within weeks, tried it themselves because of course they did. But tobacco use in the Americas is far older than 1492. In 2019, researchers at a site in the Great Salt Lake Desert in Utah found a hearth thousands of years old containing seeds of wild tobacco in concentrations suggesting deliberate placement. This predates any known pipe or pottery in the region by a wide margin. And here's the thing about tobacco in ancient America. It was not recreational, it was sacred. Tobacco was used in healing rituals, in communication with the divine, in binding agreements between peoples. Blowing smoke on someone was an act of blessing. The smoke itself was considered a living carrier, a messenger traveling upward carrying prayers. When something is sacred, you treat it with reverence. You do not chain smoke it while watching television. The idea of tobacco as a casual everyday habit is an almost entirely European invention. invention. The transition from sacred smoke to casual product is historically a disaster. Within decades of arriving in Europe, tobacco went from exotic curiosity to continental obsession. By the 1600s, it was traded globally. By the early 1900s, the industrially manufactured cigarette made consumption cheaper and more addictive than anything before. What indigenous Americans had incorporated into measured, ritualized practice over thousands of years was turned into a mass-market consumer product within 4 centuries. A healer placing herbs on hot stones and a tobacco executive signing off on marketing to teenagers both worked with the same plant. They had almost nothing else in common. So when did ancient humans start smoking? The honest answer is, we do not know exactly. The physical evidence takes us back thousands of years with confidence, and possibly much further. The behavior predates agriculture, pottery, and every civilization you have ever learned about. But here is what is clear. By the time the written record begins, in every corner of the world where humans lived, they were already finding ways to put smoke into their bodies. The plants changed. The rituals changed. The purposes changed. But the behavior was already ancient by the time anyone thought to write it down. Fire, smoke, breath. The oldest humans sat around fires and breathed the same smoky air you would smell at a bonfire tonight. Some of them started paying attention to what that smoke was doing, and then they started choosing it.